Today I'm going to show you how I made this cute little gingerbread animation using Procreate Dreams on my iPad Pro. Sit back, relax, and let's get into the video. To start the video off, we are doing a gingerbread house in Procreate itself, not Dreams, because the drawing feature in Procreate Dreams is better for frame-by-frame animation. When it comes to actual digital illustration in its traditional way, Procreate is still the better app for that. So at some point when I'm ready to put this into Procreate Dreams, all I have to do is drag it over from one app to another using the multi-view display. You can also use it in Stage Manager, which I think is only available for anyone with the M1 chip and up, but just FYI if you're one of those people. So now that the house is done, I'm actually building the interior of the house with little graham cracker pieces. We're gonna have the interior walls and the floor, and then of course add some frosting to put it all together, and then I import this into Procreate Dreams about right now in the video. Alright, so now we're going to be starting the actual animation part of the video. Now I think this app is cool. Procreate Dreams, it's got it going on, it does, but it's also got some things going wrong, I think, and maybe, user error. I'm critical of the timeline, specifically to make the tracks bigger. You take 3 fingers and you go up. If you want to zoom out, you take 2 fingers and you zoom out and you zoom in, and it's just like you would anything else. But for some reason it's not fixed, so when you zoom out it actually pushes the timeline, even the parts of it that are not included in the actual track, into the center. Now this makes it easy to select all if you want to select all and then group, but that's not always what I want to do. I also think it's kind of interesting, to say the least. It's utilizing 2 fingers to do this, 2 and 3 fingers to do these different actions. These are the same finger commands that undo and redo certain parts of your drawings and other actions that you do in the software. A lot of times when I tap my screen with 2 fingers, it would accidentally undo something as opposed to me moving it around. And when I'm going between things so fast, sometimes I am just tapping the screen really quickly to move it just a little bit, but then that split second of time ends up undoing. So you have to go into the settings, and I think you can change the reaction time to an undo. But I don't want to do that either because I'm used to it undoing immediately. So there's got to be a compromise here on the user end, something I need to kind of figure out, but it's going to probably be something I implement in both Procreate and Procreate Dreams because I'm using them in tandem. If one has a slower undo time than the other one, that's going to throw me off. So it's really a matter of getting the right flow with this kind of stuff. All right, so about this point, we're working on the fire animation itself. I have drawn the first frame of the gingerbread man on his beanbag chair as well as the cat on its cat bed, and now I'm doing the fire in this little fire chamber thing. It's just a rectangle with fire coming out of it. This consisted of 5 or 6 frames, I can't remember exactly. So I just did a loop of those, and then once I was done with that, I grouped them together, and then I was able to duplicate that multiple times in the track. After doing that a couple times, I grouped it again just to make it bigger, and then I was able to duplicate bigger chunks of it over and over again until I had the whole timeline filled, and then I just grouped that. There is a limit to how many times you can group something. It's not that many. I'm not able to find an exact number online anywhere of what that limit is. It's probably somewhere, I just couldn't find it, but you are limited to how much you can group, and I think it also might involve how much data is being grouped together, so it might vary depending on the resolution and whether it's an audio track or an image track, if it's something that's already been grouped before versus something that is being grouped for the first time. All of these things factor. You also cannot draw on a grouped frame, by the way. So once you group things, it kind of makes it permanent when it comes to the actual artistic part of it. So if you want to add anything else later on, you're going to actually have to ungroup it, which you can do at any point, or you can just add another track on top of it and draw over that and do your frame by frame that way as well, or add anything you want to add. I think once you get a flow for your frame by frame process, this is a very, very straightforward experience. I love that you can move the flip book around the canvas. That's something to Procreate that was really annoying, is always having to go to the bottom of the app to switch your frame or to the layer menu. The layer menu right now doesn't really have that much use. I think that's something that's coming in a later update, but moving the flip book around and being able to tap that really anywhere at any time is really, really convenient. At this point, I'm adjusting my frames just to make sure that they look really good. At some point, I accidentally changed my frame rate. I don't know how I did it, but it ended up making things go super fast. So I had to elongate my frames so that they went about half the speed that they would have at the frame rate that this was at, which I think was 30. But it's cool that you can do things like that, because then you can have elements in your animation that are going at a different FPS because of how long those individual frames are versus the actual frame rate itself. So by doing longer frames, you can shorten the FPS, even if the FPS is set at a certain rate. So those different speeds of movement is really, really beneficial if you have multiple elements moving, telling different parts of the story at the same time. This is something that's incredibly hard to do in regular Procreate, so it's much appreciated. I know I haven't talked much about the actual animation part, but there's just so much going on here. I'm trying to pack it all in. So when I started doing the frame by frame of the Gingerbread, I wanted to take some of the new features that Procreate's bringing to the table, select a frame. So if you go just out of the drawing mode and you select a frame, you can then on the timeline select the little movie icon and you can warp or distort it. You can't do both at the same time, and you can't do one if the other one has already been started. So you have to choose one or the other. You can adjust how much warp space you have. Once you've selected the thing that you've selected and you've chosen if you want to warp or distort it, you can then hit the little record button, that little circle at the top right of your timeline. Then you go to the screen with your selected item and you can move it however you want. And if you already have a walking cycle, for example, made, and you have 5 frames of a walking cycle, you can then press that record button, drag the walk cycle that you've grouped together across the screen, and it'll play live while you do it. And then when you play it back, it will have recorded you dragging that across the screen. So instead of having to copy and paste a bunch of walk cycle frames or actually draw it out one by one, if you don't want to do that, you can actually record your frames live motion across the screen, which is really, really cool. I can see why a lot of these features have been described as innovative and a new form of animation. I really appreciate the lack of AI intervention here. There's a lot of just software elements that you can use to your advantage, which is beneficial as opposed to taking away a part of the creative process, in my opinion, that AI is so well known for. It's just void of everything that Procreate Dreams stands for, which is the process in its entirety. It's still an animation software. It's still frame by frame most of the time. There are ways to kind of get around that difficulty, but it is going to require a level of knowing how to draw and knowing how to consistently create movement and tell a story and do all the things that animation is well known for or requires. So about this part, I am actually doing some frame by frame. I'm keeping it simple though. I'm erasing the arms and I'm raising them up. You know, you got to save time to make time, you know what I mean? But it's, he's going to yawn. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to raise his arms up, and then once I've done that, I'm going to group all that together. Then I'm going to select him out of the drawing mode and then click the record button and kind of stretch him out a bit because he's going to be stretching and yawning, and I want it to blow him up a bit and then size him back down after he's done yawning. So before I do that, I got to get all the frames drawn, group everything together, and then I can do that record feature that I told you that unfortunately I didn't record. So, you know, that's great. But all right, so that's like a little review slash talking about what I'm doing while I'm doing it a little bit with some snippets of my drawing process that I filmed. Apparently not the entirety of, but you know, I hope that you enjoy the animation that's coming up here soon. I've got music and everything added on, so I think it's super cute. I call it Ginger Boop, and because we're gonna boop the cat, and it's fun. So I hope you enjoy the animation. I will see you guys in the next video. Like and all that stuff, it gets me out there, and I appreciate it if you do. Happy holidays. I am excited to share a couple more videos this month, so stay tuned for that. Stay cozy.